Welcome back. We're going to talk about a Jewish wedding today. It's coming upon that season, and I'd like to share with you the parts of a Jewish wedding. So when I speak with a bridal couple, I usually tell them there are four major parts to a Jewish wedding. The first being the ketubah signing, the bedekin, all of that preliminary stuff that takes place before what the public sees. Unless, of course, very traditionally, the ketubah signing, the veiling of the bride, the bedekin, as we say in Yiddish, takes place in public. There are traditions that have what we call a chatan tish, which is the groom's table, where songs and revelry and divrei Torah, words of Torah, are delivered at this time, and then the ketubah is signed by the witnesses, and then we move on to the veiling of the bride. That's the very traditional. The veiling of the bride would take place in what we call the Kabbalat Panim, the greeting of the bride, where the bride is seated on an elevated chair, a throne, so to speak, and people come to greet her. This is where usually the hors d'oeuvres would be, a little festive meal prior, which is really sad because the bride and groom are fasting and they can't eat at all until after the wedding. So, again, this is most traditional of the approaches. Oftentimes in the weddings I officiate, most recently, the ketubah signing and the veiling is done with just a few people, maybe the bridal party, the parents. That's what has been customarily done. But in terms of if you really want to celebrate, again, the chatan tish, the groom's table, and the kabbalat panim, the greeting of the bride, and all of this would be done in public. The second part of the ceremony is the first of two ceremonies under the chuppah, under the wedding canopy, and it's called the erusin, the betrothal. Traditionally, the betrothal would take place 6 months, a year prior to the wedding, and the bride and groom are thus committed to each other. Again, the ketubah is signed, and which becomes a legal marriage contract. Blessings over the betrothal are recited. There's a blessing over the wine, and again, in ancient days, this was done 6 months, a year prior to the wedding. Then the groom would take the dowry and either build a home, build a business, and then they would do the second, what we call the second part of our ceremony, which would be the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings, and thus the marriage is consecrated, sanctified, and the couple is then permitted to cohabitate, as we say. So in our ceremony, it takes place under the chuppah. Both of these ceremonies take place under the chuppah. So the first ceremony, there's a blessing over the union, a blessing over the wine, and the couple drink from the wine under the chuppah. After that, the ring is given to the bride. This is official as part of the Talmud. Our oral law states that the groom must give something of value to the bride. In this case, it's the ring. In many modern ceremonies, the bride then also gives the groom a ring, and thus they are, again, this is the second part of the 3 parts of what's legally required for the wedding, for the marriage to be complete. So after this, we read from the ketubah, the wedding contract. The marriage contract is an official part of our ceremony, and we are required to have witnesses sign. In many of the more beautiful illuminated ketubot, the bride and groom are also have a place to sign, and then once we read from the ketubah, Generally, we say something wonderful about the bride and groom. Again, a Devar Torah of sorts. We try and bring in values of the Torah and speaking about the bride and groom. Following this is the Sheva Brachot. Once more, we make a blessing over the wine with 6 additional blessings which sanctify our relationship with each other and our relationship with God. And following the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings, the bride and groom then drink again from the cup of wine. Following this, the legal pronouncement of the marriage takes place, and then we complete the ceremony under the chuppah with the breaking of the glass. The breaking of the glass has many interpretations, commentaries. The one that I use is that even at our most happy of occasions, that we remember the destruction of the temple, the beautiful Beit HaMikdash that we hope and pray will come back in the 3rd temple period, and may it come speedily in our day. And so we break the glass as a symbol that we're not quite whole. Without the Beit HaMikdash, without the temple in Jerusalem, that we're not quite whole. One of the things that I like to say when we break the glass is that however many pieces the glass breaks, that's how much the bridal couple's happiness should be multiplied. So it's a nice way to finish off, and again, in remembrance of the destruction of the temple. And so once the groom breaks the glass, the bride and groom then go off to the final part of the ceremony, and that is Yichud. Okay? Yichud is privacy, isolation. Their time together in the Torah terms, to consummate the marriage. Now, in the more modern interpretations, it's basically they spend some time in a room together. Maybe they'll have some food to break the fast, and then they return to the party. In the very traditional world, the bride and groom actually do consummate the marriage, because that is a legal requirement for a marriage to take place. In the Talmud tells us that there are 3 things that are required: a contract, the ketubah, something of value, the ring, and marital relations, in order for a marriage to be legal. So in our day and age, with modern couples, many of them just spend time in a room together alone. The reason for this is, according to Jewish tradition, that if a man and a woman are in a room alone together, the assumption is they're having sex. So it is what it is. So so they share a meal together, or share some food together, and then they return to the party. Interestingly enough, the wedding celebration is actually referred to as a Seudah Mitzvah, a commanded feast. It is part and parcel of the wedding, and the requirement of the guests is to gladden the heart of the bride and the groom. So while the groom has a responsibility to gladden the heart of his bride, we as guests at a wedding are required to entertain, to do everything we can to make the bride and groom joyful. And that sort of finishes the requirements for the wedding itself. In many traditions, we have what's called a Sheva Brachot, a week of festivities, and where the bride and groom are hosted by family members, by friends, and the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings, are recited at each of these meals for a week. And then the bride and groom go off on their honeymoon. So this is the sum of a Jewish wedding, with many of the rituals, some which are observed by the more traditional, and some which are not. I hope you enjoyed this brief look into a Jewish wedding. Have a wonderful day and enjoy all of your life together.